Hey everyone, welcome back. We're building in our Minecraft while I tell you about someone who snapped at the wrong retail worker and paid for it in the most beautifully petty way possible. They basically built their own downfall. When you walk into a store armed with entitlement and zero receipts, you're not just testing policy, you're testing someone's patience, and sometimes that patience turns into the deadliest weapon. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you. Your likes, comments, and support truly mean a lot to me. I've read every single message you've shared, and it's what keeps me motivated. Really. Thank you. So let me take you back to an ordinary Tuesday at an electronics store, where one customer's meltdown was about to become a masterclass in revenge served ice cold. I work retail at an electronics store, the kind of place where people come in thinking every problem can be solved with enough yelling. Most days it's fine. Customers are reasonable, things run smoothly, and I go home without wanting to scream into a pillow. But then there are days like this one. It was a Tuesday afternoon, slow enough that I was reorganizing the display charges for the third time, just to look busy. That's when she walked in. Middle-aged woman, designer bag, sunglasses indoors, the whole stereotype. She was carrying a laptop under one arm like it was a dirty gym towel, and I could already tell this wasn't going to be pleasant. She marched straight up to my counter, dropped the laptop down hard enough to make me wince, and said, "I need a refund." I glanced down at the laptop. It was covered in stickers, like completely plastered. Band logos, political slogans, a few that just said things like vibes in cursive. No box, no accessories, no receipt in sight. "Sure, I can help with that," I said, keeping my tone polite. "Do you have your receipt?" She stared at me like I'd just asked her to solve a calculus problem. "No, I don't keep receipts." "Okay, no problem. Do you have the credit card you used to purchase it? I can look it up in our system." "I paid cash." Of course she did. "All right," I said, still trying to stay calm. "When did you purchase this?" She waved a hand dismissively. "I don't know. A few months ago? Maybe 6?" 6 months. Our return policy is 30 days. It's posted on every wall, printed on every receipt, and mentioned at checkout. But I wasn't about to say that yet. "I see," I said. "And what's the reason for the return?" "It doesn't work." I looked at the laptop again. It was clearly used, heavily used. The trackpad was worn smooth, the keys had that shiny patina that only comes from constant typing, and there was a coffee stain on the corner of the screen. "Can you describe what's not working?" "It's slow," she snapped. "It freezes all the time. It's garbage. I want my money back." I nodded slowly. "Okay, just so you know, our return policy is 30 days from the date of purchase, and we do require proof of purchase for refunds." Her face went red. "Are you serious? This thing is defective. You sold me a broken laptop." "Mom, if it's defective, we can absolutely look into a warranty claim, but without a receipt or proof of purchase, I can't process a refund." That's when she lost it. "This is ridiculous," she shouted, loud enough that the few other customers in the store turned to look. "I spent $1,500 on this piece of junk, and you're telling me you won't take it back? Get me your manager. Now." I didn't even flinch. I just smiled and said, "Of course. Let me grab him for you." I walked to the back and found my manager, Derek, who was restocking USB cables and looking like he wanted to be literally anywhere else. I gave him the rundown, and he sighed the sigh of a man who's dealt with this exact situation 1,000 times. "All right," he said. "Let's go." We walked back out together, and Derek introduced himself with the kind of customer service charm that only comes from years of practice. The woman immediately launched into her story again, louder this time, adding in details about how she's a loyal customer and how she's going to report us to corporate and leave a terrible review. Derek listened patiently, nodded in all the right places, and then said, "I understand your frustration, ma'am, but our return policy is 30 days. Without a receipt, we can't process a refund." Her mouth fell open. "You're backing him up?" "Our policy applies to everyone," Derek said calmly. She looked between us like we'd just told her the earth was flat. "Fine, I'll call corporate. I'll make sure both of you lose your jobs." Derek didn't even blink. "That's your right, ma'am." She grabbed her phone and started scrolling furiously, muttering under her breath about how she was going to ruin us. I could see the gears turning in her head. She thought corporate would swoop in and save her, force us to give her the refund, maybe even get us fired. But here's the thing. Corporate doesn't care. They back the policy because the policy protects them. And I knew that. Derek knew that. She was about to learn it the hard way. While she was on her phone, I leaned over to Derek and whispered, "You want me to handle this?" He gave me a look, a little smile creeping onto his face. "Go for it." I turned back to the woman, who was now glaring at me like I'd personally insulted her ancestors, and said, "Mom, I want to help you. Let me see what I can do." Her expression shifted slightly. She thought she'd won. "Since you don't have a receipt," I continued, "I'll need you to fill out a refund request form. It's standard procedure for cases like this." I pulled out the form from under the counter. It's 4 pages long, front and back. Name, address, phone number, email, date of purchase, method of payment, serial number of the device, reason for return, detailed description of the issue, signature, date, witness signature. The works. She snatched it from my hand and started filling it out, scribbling furiously. I waited. When she finished, she slammed it back down on the counter. "There. Happy?" "Almost," I said, still smiling. "Now I'll need you to fill out a device inspection form." Her eye twitched. "A what?" "A device inspection form. It's required for any return without proof of purchase. We need to document the condition of the device before we can proceed." I slid the second form across the counter. This one's even longer. Detailed checklist of every physical component. Screen condition, keyboard condition, ports, battery. Any signs of damage, any modifications. It's designed to be tedious. She stared at it like it was written in ancient Greek. "This is insane." "It's policy," I said, my voice dripping with fake helpfulness. She filled it out. Took her 20 minutes. I stood there the whole time, perfectly calm, occasionally offering a pen when hers ran out of ink. When she finally finished, she shoved the form at me. "Done. Now give me my refund." I picked up the forms, pretended to review them carefully, and then said, "Great, now we'll need to send the laptop to our tech department for verification of purchase." Her face went pale. "What?" "Verification of purchase," I repeated. "Since you don't have a receipt, we need to confirm that this laptop was purchased from our store. Our tech team will run diagnostics, check the serial number against our sales records, and verify the condition. It usually takes 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. She looked like she was about to have an aneurysm. "You're joking." "Not at all," I said. "It's outlined right here in section 7 of the refund request form you just signed." I pointed to the fine print. She didn't even look. "This is absurd," she screamed. "I'm not waiting 6 weeks." "I understand," I said, my voice still maddeningly calm. "But without proof of purchase, this is the only way we can proceed. Would you like me to submit the forms, or would you prefer to keep the laptop?" She stood there, shaking with rage, her hands balled into fists. I could see the exact moment she realized she wasn't going to win this. Her whole body sagged. "You know what?" she said, her voice low and venomous. "Forget it. This place is a joke. You're all incompetent." She grabbed the laptop, shoved it back under her arm, and stormed out, nearly knocking over a display on her way to the door. The second she was gone, Derek turned to me and held up his hand for a high five. I slapped it, grinning like an idiot. "That," he said, "was beautiful." "I just followed policy," I said, still smiling. "Exactly. The thing is, she could have walked out at any point. She could have accepted that the return wasn't going to happen and left with some dignity. But she didn't. She chose to escalate. She chose to scream and threaten and demand. And in doing so, she gave me every reason to drag the process out as long as possible. You almost have to admire the commitment to being wrong. The rest of the shift was uneventful. A couple of customers asked what all the yelling was about, and I just shrugged and said it was a misunderstanding. Derek told the story to the evening crew, and by the end of the night, it had already become store legend. I never saw that woman again. I like to think she learned something that day, but honestly, people like that rarely do. They just move on to the next store, the next employee, the next person they think they can bully into submission. But here's the thing, politeness has limits, patience has limits, and when someone crosses those limits, sometimes the best response isn't to fight back. It's to smile, nod, and follow every single rule exactly as written. Let the system do the work. Let them drown in their own entitlement. That woman learned the hard way that politeness has limits. But speaking of people who thought they were untouchable, the next story takes that idea and cranks it up to 11. I manage a fast food place on the edge of town. It's not glamorous, but it's mine to run, and I take that seriously. We've got regulars, we've got the late night crowd, and every once in a while we've got someone who walks in thinking they can pull a fast one. This guy, he thought he hit the jackpot. It's about 6 in the evening. Dinner rush is winding down. I'm behind the counter organizing receipts when this dude walks in, holding a crumpled brown paper bag, like it's evidence in a criminal trial. He's got this smug look on his face, the kind that says he's already rehearsed his performance in the car. He marches up to the counter, slams the bag down, and says, "I need a refund. This burger was raw." I look at the bag. It's wrinkled, stained, and honestly looks like it's been sitting in a glove compartment for a week. I glance up at him. "Okay, sir, when did you buy this?" He doesn't even hesitate. "About an hour ago, I got home, took one bite, and it was raw in the middle. Completely unacceptable. I could have gotten sick." Now, I've been doing this long enough to know when someone's lying. His story's already shaky. An hour ago would have been during the tail end of the lunch rush, and we've had 0 complaints all day. Plus, the bag he's holding doesn't even look like one of ours anymore. It's got grease stains that look days old. But I stay calm. I've learned that the best way to handle these situations is to let people dig their own graves. "All right," I say. "Do you have your receipt?" He pats his pockets theatrically, like he's performing for an invisible audience. No, I must have thrown it out." Of course he did. "Okay, no problem. What time did you come in?" He pauses just for a second, like he's doing mental math. "Around noon." "Yeah, around noon." I glance at the clock on the wall. It's 6 p.m., so he's claiming he bought a burger 6 hours ago, went home, ate part of it, discovered it was raw, and then decided to come back now. The story's not adding up, but I don't call him out yet. Instead, I nod slowly like I'm considering his claim. "Got it. Let me check something real quick." I walk into the back office and my assistant manager, Carlos, is sitting there scrolling through his phone. He looks up when I walk in. "What's up?" "We've got a guy out there trying to return a burger. He says he bought an hour ago, says it was raw. The bag looks like it survived a natural disaster." Carlos raises an eyebrow. "You pulling the footage?" "You know it. We've got cameras covering the entire front counter, the drive-through, and even the parking lot." I pull up the system and start scrolling back. If this guy really bought a burger at noon, it'll be on here. I go back an hour first just to humor his original claim. Nothing. No sign of him. I keep scrolling. 2 hours, 3, still nothing. Then I go back to noon like he said. I scan through the lunch rush footage watching customers come and go. And then, there he is. Same guy, same jacket. But here's the thing. This footage isn't from today. The timestamp says yesterday. I rewind and watch the whole interaction. He orders a burger, pays in cash, takes the bag, and walks out to his car. The cameras catch him sitting in the parking lot, pulling the burger out and eating half of it right there. Then he crumples up the bag, tosses it on the passenger seat, and drives off. I actually laugh out loud. Carlos leans over. "What?" "Dude bought the burger yesterday, ate half of it, and now he's trying to return it." Carlos stares at the screen, then at me. "You're kidding." "Nope. Watch." I replay the footage for him. We both just sit there for a second, taking in the absurdity of it. Then Carlos grins. "You gonna show him?" "Oh, absolutely." I save a screenshot of the timestamp and head back out to the counter. The guy's standing there, arms crossed, tapping his foot like I'm the one wasting his time. I set the tablet down on the counter, angled so he can see the screen. "So I checked our security footage," I say, keeping my voice calm and professional, "and I found the transaction." His face lights up like he thinks he's about to win. "See, I told you." "Yeah," I say, tapping the screen. "Except the timestamp says you bought this burger yesterday, at 12:14 p.m., and according to the footage, you ate half of it in your car before driving off." I watch his expression shift in real time. The smugness drains out of his face like someone pulled a plug. His mouth opens, then closes. He stares at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. For a second, I think he's going to double down, maybe claim the footage is wrong, or that I'm lying. But he doesn't. He just stands there, frozen. I must have mixed up the days," he finally mumbles, barely audible. "Mixed up the days, that's his defense. Like he just casually forgot an entire 24-hour period. I don't even respond. I just keep looking at him, calm as ever, letting the silence do the work. He grabs the bag off the counter, mutters something I can't quite hear, and bolts for the door. The second he's out of the building, the crew behind me erupts. One of the cooks is doubled over laughing. Carlos is shaking his head, grinning ear to ear. My cashier, Maya, looks at me and says, "Please tell me you saved that footage." "Oh, I saved it," I say. I screenshotted his face too. And I did. That frozen moment when he realized he'd been caught, that split second of pure panic, I saved it. Carlos prints it out and we frame it. It goes up in the back office right next to the schedule board. Every time someone walks past it, they crack a smile. It becomes a legend among the staff. New hires get the story on their first day. "See that guy? He tried to return a day-old burger and got destroyed by a timestamp." The thing is, people try this kind of stuff all the time. They think we're too busy, too distracted, or too dumb to notice. They think a crumpled bag and a confident tone are enough to get a refund. No questions asked. And maybe at some places it works. But not here. We've got cameras, we've got records, and we've got a manager who's seen every scam in the book. What really gets me is the audacity. He didn't just try to return an old burger. He could have claimed it was from this morning, maybe even earlier this afternoon, but he said an hour ago, which made it so easy to disprove. And when I gave him a chance to clarify, he doubled down and said noon. He basically built his own trap, walked into it, and then acted shocked when it snapped shut. Carlos still brings it up sometimes when we're closing. "Remember Burger Guy?" And we'll laugh all over again. It's one of those stories that never gets old because it's so perfectly absurd. The man drove back to the restaurant 24 hours later with a half-eaten burger and genuinely thought we'd just hand him money. And when he got caught, he didn't even try to fight it. He just left. No argument, no escalation. Just pure defeat. I've had people yell at me, threaten to call corporate, post bad reviews, all of it. But this guy, he knew he was beat the second that timestamp popped up on the screen. There's something almost satisfying about that. Not in a cruel way, but in a justice was served kind of way. He tried to take advantage, got caught clean, and walked out with nothing but embarrassment. The screenshot's still hanging in the back. Every time I see it, I'm reminded that sometimes the simplest tool is the most effective. No yelling, no drama. Just a camera, a timestamp, and the truth. Some people really think cameras don't exist, but sometimes the evidence isn't on a screen. It's buried in something even more damning. I've worked with competitive people before. That's fine. Healthy competition can push you to do better work. But Jenna took it to a level that honestly should have required a psychological evaluation. From day one, she treated every project like it was a death match. If I closed a deal, she'd find a way to mention she closed too. If I got praised in a meeting, she'd somehow steer the conversation back to her accomplishments. It was exhausting, but I mostly ignored it. I had my own work to focus on, and frankly, I didn't have the energy to engage in whatever corporate gladiator fantasy she was living out. We'd been assigned to work on this massive project together. 6 months of planning, coordinating with multiple departments, endless spreadsheets and presentations. It was the kind of project that could genuinely boost your career if it went well. And honestly, it was going well. We were ahead of schedule, the client was happy, our boss was impressed, everything was lining up perfectly. I should have known that's when things would implode. About 2 weeks before the final presentation, our boss calls an emergency meeting. He looks furious. I walk in, and Jenna's already sitting there with this expression that I can only describe as performative concern. You know the look. Wide eyes, slightly furrowed brow, like she's deeply troubled but trying to stay professional. My stomach drops immediately because I know something's wrong, and I have a feeling I'm about to be blamed for it. Our boss doesn't waste time. He pulls up an email on his screen and turns the monitor toward me. It's from my email address. The subject line reads, "Updated Project Files," and it's addressed to Jenna. I open the attachments he's referring to, and my blood runs cold. They're completely wrong. Old versions of documents, incorrect data, files that would have derailed the entire presentation if someone had actually used them. He asks me very calmly why I sent Jenna the wrong files and why I didn't double check before hitting send. I'm stunned. I don't even know what to say at first because I'm trying to process what I'm looking at. I didn't send that email. I know I didn't. I tell him exactly that. I say I never sent these files, and I definitely didn't send them from my email. He looks skeptical. Jenna jumps in, and this is where it gets really twisted. She says she was confused when she got the email because the files looked outdated, but she trusted me and assumed I knew what I was doing. She says she tried to ask me about it, but I brushed her off. Complete lie. She never asked me anything. I can feel my face getting hot. I'm not someone who loses their temper easily, but I'm about 2 seconds away from it. I tell my boss again, very clearly, that I did not send that email. He asks if someone else has access to my account. I say no. He asks if I'm sure I didn't send it and just forgot. I say I'm absolutely sure. Jenna sits there, quiet now, playing the role of the concerned coworker who just wants the truth to come out. I want to scream. This is where patience finally snapped. I take a breath and ask if I can have IT pull the metadata on that email. My boss looks confused. Jenna's face twitches, just slightly, but I catch it. I explain that every email has metadata embedded in it. Information about where it was sent from, what IP address, what device, timestamps, all of it. If I sent that email, the metadata will prove it. If I didn't, it'll prove that too. My boss agrees and says he'll have IT look into it. Jenna tries to backtrack. She says maybe we don't need to involve IT. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe we can all just move forward and focus on the project. I stare at her. I don't say anything. I just stare. Because now I know. She did this. She absolutely did this. And she's panicking because she didn't think I'd know about metadata. It gets back to us within a few hours. I'm sitting at my desk pretending to work, but really just refreshing my email every 30 seconds. When the message finally comes through, I open it immediately. The metadata report is attached. I scan through it and there it is. The email was not sent from my IP address. It was sent from an IP address that traces back to Jenna's home network. But that wasn't even the worst part. The email account itself was a fake. Someone had created a new email address that looked almost identical to mine. Same first and last name, but with a tiny variation in the domain. Something like an extra letter or a different punctuation mark. Subtle enough that if you weren't paying close attention, you'd think it was legitimate. And the account was created the same day the email was sent. The metadata showed the account was accessed from Jenna's IP address multiple times. She'd logged in, sent herself the wrong files, and then forwarded the email to our boss, making it look like I was the one who screwed up. I print the report. I don't even wait. I walk straight to HR with the printed pages in my hand. I explain everything. I show them the metadata. I show them the fake email account. I show them the IP address. They listen, and I can see their expressions shift from neutral to genuinely shocked. They thank me for bringing it to their attention and say they'll handle it from here. Within 2 hours, Jenna's called into HR. I don't know exactly what was said in that meeting, but I do know she was fired on the spot. No warning, no chance to explain, just fired. Apparently, creating a fake email account to frame a coworker falls pretty clearly under grounds for immediate termination. Who knew? I'm packing up my stuff at the end of the day when I see her in the parking lot. She's standing next to her car, and when she sees me, she starts walking over. I can tell she's been crying. Her eyes are red, her makeup smudged. She says my name, and I stop, but I don't turn around. She starts talking. She says she's sorry. She says she didn't think it would go this far. She says she was just stressed about the project and made a bad decision. She says she hopes I can forgive her someday. I don't respond. I don't even look at her. I just keep walking to my car, get in, and drive away. Because honestly, there's nothing to say. She didn't make a bad decision in a moment of stress. She planned this. She created a fake email account. She logged in multiple times. She sent herself files. She forwarded them to our boss. She sat in that meeting and lied to my face. That's not stress. That's calculated. And I don't owe her forgiveness for that. The project, by the way, went off without a hitch. I ended up presenting it solo, and it was one of the best presentations I've ever given. The client loved it. My boss apologized for doubting me. I got a promotion 3 months later. Jenna, last I heard, she's still job hunting. Turns out getting fired for fraud doesn't look great on a resume. Jenna thought she was clever, but lies always leave a trail, and sometimes the truth is hiding in plain sight, literally in someone's phone. I started noticing the changes about 2 months in. Sarah and I had been together for almost a year at that point, and things had always been pretty solid. We had our routines, our inside jokes, the kind of comfortable rhythm you fall into when you've been with someone long enough to stop trying so hard. But then something shifted. She started working late more often. Not every night, but enough that it became noticeable. At first, I didn't think much of it. She worked in marketing and had mentioned a big campaign coming up, so late nights made sense. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? But then the stories started not adding up. She'd tell me she was stuck at the office until 9, but when I'd text her around 8:30, asking if she wanted me to pick up dinner, she'd say she already ate. With the team, she'd say. Which was fine, except when I asked her about it the next day, she'd mention grabbing something on the way home. Little things like that. Details that didn't match. I'm not the type to keep a mental spreadsheet of everything someone says, but when the inconsistencies pile up, you start to notice. She also got weirdly protective of her phone. Like, more than usual. We'd never been the kind of couple that went through each other's stuff. I didn't need to check her messages and she didn't need to check mine. We just trusted each other. But suddenly she was taking her phone into the bathroom when she showered. She'd flip it face down on the table during dinner, and if I walked into the room while she was texting, she'd casually lock the screen and set it aside like she'd just been scrolling through nothing important. It was subtle, but it was there. I tried talking to her about it, not in an accusatory way, just casually. I asked if everything was okay at work, if the campaign was stressing her out. She said it was fine. I asked if we were okay. She smiled and said, of course, why would I even ask that? And I wanted to believe her. I really did, so I let it go. Then one night I was grabbing something from her car. She'd borrowed my gym bag earlier in the week and I needed it back. I opened the passenger door and there it was, plugged into the charging port. A second phone, not her usual iPhone with the cracked screen protector and the little charm she'd attached to the case. This was a completely different phone. Android, I think. Plain black case, just sitting there, charging. I stared at it for a second, trying to come up with a reasonable explanation. Maybe it was a work phone. That made sense, right? Her company could have issued her a second device for the campaign, except she'd never mentioned it. And in all the time she'd complained about work over the past few months, she'd never once brought up having to manage two phones. I picked it up. It was locked, obviously. I set it back down and went inside. That night at dinner, I asked her about it. Casual, like I was just curious. Hey, I saw a phone charging in your car. Is that a work thing? She barely looked up from her plate. Oh yeah, she said. New work phone. They want us keeping client stuff separate. Made sense. Except her tone was just a little too quick, a little too dismissive. So I pushed. Can I see it? Just curious what kind they gave you? She froze. Just for a second, but I caught it. Then she laughed it off and said the battery was dead. She'd left it in the car all day and forgot to charge it. I nodded. Okay, sure. But something about the way she said it didn't sit right. The battery was dead, but it had been plugged in when I saw it. Unless she'd only just plugged it in. Which, fine, maybe. But the whole thing felt off. I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, after she fell asleep, I almost went out to the car to check. But I stopped myself. I didn't want to be that person. The person who snoops. The person who doesn't trust their partner. So I left it alone and tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. The next day, she was in the shower and I was getting dressed for work. Her car keys were on the dresser, and I don't know. I picked them up, told myself I was just going to look. Not unlock it, not go through it. Just see if it was actually dead like she said. I went out to the car. The phone was still there, still plugged in. I picked it up and pressed the power button. The screen lit up immediately. Full battery. Lock screen showing a handful of unread notifications. I should have put it down. I know that, but I didn't. I stared at the lock screen for a minute, trying to decide what to do, and then I just tried her birthday. It unlocked. I genuinely thought this couldn't get worse. I was wrong. The messages were right there on the home screen. Text after text from someone named Mark. I opened the thread and my stomach dropped. It wasn't work. It wasn't innocent. It was plans to meet up. It was inside jokes. It was photos I didn't want to see. There were messages from the night before, while I was sitting on the couch thinking she was working late. There were messages from 2 weeks ago when she told me she was going to her sister's. There were messages going back months. 3 months to be exact. I scrolled and scrolled and it just kept going. I took screenshots. I don't even know why. Maybe I thought I'd need proof. Maybe I just needed to make sure it was real and not some kind of stress-induced hallucination. Then I put the phone back, exactly how I found it, and went back inside. She was still in the shower. I sat on the edge of the bed and just stared at the wall, trying to process what I'd just seen. When she came out, wrapped in a towel and smiling like everything was normal, I almost didn't say anything. Part of me wanted to pretend I'd never looked, but I couldn't. I asked her point blank, "Who's Mark?" Her face went white. She stammered something about a coworker. "Just a friend, someone from the campaign team." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots. I watched the color drain from her face as she scrolled through her own messages, her own words, staring back at her from my screen. She tried to deny it at first, said it wasn't what it looked like, that I was taking things out of context, that Mark was just a friend, and yeah, maybe they flirted a little, but it didn't mean anything. I asked her to explain the photos. She couldn't. I asked her to explain the messages about meeting up at his place. She couldn't. I asked her to explain why she had a whole separate phone just to talk to him, and that's when she finally broke. She sat down on the bed and just started crying, admitted everything, said she'd been seeing him for 3 months, that it started as just talking, then it became more, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that she didn't want to hurt me. I didn't yell, I didn't throw anything. I just started packing her stuff. She begged me to stop, said we could work through it, that she'd end things with Mark, that she loved me and it was a mistake and she'd do anything to fix it. I kept packing. I filled 2 suitcases with her clothes, her toiletries, everything I could find that belonged to her. She followed me around the apartment, crying, apologizing, begging for another chance. When I was done, I set the suitcases by the door and told her to leave. She asked where she was supposed to go. I told her that wasn't my problem anymore. Maybe Mark's place. She stood there for a minute like she was waiting for me to change my mind. When I didn't, she grabbed her stuff and left. That night I blocked her number. Blocked her on everything. Social media, messaging apps, email. I didn't want to hear from her. Didn't want to see her name pop up on my phone. I just wanted her gone. A few days later, she tried reaching out through a mutual friend, asking if we could talk. I said no. The friend pushed back a little, said Sarah was really broken up about it, and maybe I should at least hear her out. I told the friend the whole story, sent them the screenshots. They stopped pushing after that. It's been a few months now. I'm doing okay. Better than I thought I would be, honestly. I don't miss her. I don't miss the lies or the constant second guessing or the feeling that something was off. I miss the version of her I thought I was dating. But that person didn't exist. The real Sarah was someone who could look me in the eye every day, tell me she loved me, and then spend her evenings texting another guy on a secret phone she kept hidden in her car. So yeah, I don't miss that. Sarah gambled on me never finding that phone, but hidden devices aren't the only things people underestimate. I work at a gym. It's one of those mid-tier places, not fancy enough to have towel service, but nice enough that people actually wipe down the equipment. I've been there for about 2 years, mostly working the front desk, checking people in, answering questions, occasionally showing new members how to use the app. It's a chill job, or at least it was. This whole thing started on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm at the front desk scanning membership cards, restocking the water bottles, doing my usual routine. It's not particularly busy. A few people on the treadmills, some guys in the weight section, the usual crowd. I noticed this one guy, mid-30s, tank top, very impressed with himself. He's not a regular. I don't recognize him, but his membership scan's fine, so I don't think much of it. About an hour into my shift, my manager, Lisa, calls me into her office. She's got this serious look on her face, the kind that immediately makes your stomach drop. I sit down and she says, "We got a complaint about you." I blink. A complaint? About what? A member says you followed him around the gym and made him uncomfortable. I actually laugh because the idea is so absurd. Followed him around? I've been at the front desk all day. Lisa holds up a hand. I know. I'm just telling you what he said. He's out there right now and he's pretty insistent. He wants you fired. Now I'm not laughing anymore. I'm genuinely confused. Who is this guy? Tank top, dark hair, came in about an hour ago. I picture him immediately. The guy who scanned in, barely made eye contact, and went straight to the weights. I didn't follow him. I didn't even leave the desk except to grab more towels from the back, and that took maybe 2 minutes. Lisa, I don't know what he's talking about. I haven't interacted with him at all. She nods. I believe you, but he's making a big deal out of it, so I need to handle this properly. Stay here. I'm going to talk to him and check the cameras. She leaves, and I'm just sitting there, heart pounding, trying to figure out what the hell is happening. False accusations are no joke, especially in a workplace. If this guy's convincing enough, I could actually lose my job over something I didn't do. It's that sinking feeling of being completely powerless, waiting for someone else to decide your fate. About 20 minutes later, Lisa comes back. She's not alone, she's got one of the other staff members with her, Jake, who handles member services. They both look annoyed, but not at me. Lisa sits down and pulls up her laptop. Okay, so I reviewed the footage, all of it. Want to see? I nod, still confused. She turns the screen toward me. It's the security feed from the front desk camera, time-stamped from the moment the guy walked in. I watch myself scan his card, smile politely, and point him toward the locker rooms. Then I go back to the desk. I'm on my phone for a bit, then I organize some paperwork, then I walk to the back to grab towels. I'm gone for exactly 3 minutes. When I come back, I'm at the desk again. For the entire hour he's been here, I haven't moved except for that one trip to the storage room. That's what I thought, Lisa says. You were at the desk the whole time. So why is he saying I followed him? Lisa switches to another camera feed. This one's from the main gym floor. I see the guy now walking around the weight section. And here's where it gets absurd. He's not working out. He's talking to women, like aggressively. He approaches one woman on the leg press, leans in way too close, says something. She shakes her head, puts her headphones back in. He moves on to another woman by the dumbbells. Same thing. She looks uncomfortable, gives a polite smile, and turns away. Then he goes up to a third woman near the cable machines. This time she doesn't even respond. She just walks away. And then one of the women he approached, the one by the dumbbells, walks over to Jake at the member services desk. You can't hear the audio, but you can see her pointing back toward the guy, clearly upset. Jake nods, writes something down, and walks over to the guy. There's a brief conversation. The guy's body language shifts. He's defensive, hands up, shaking his head. Jake points toward the exit. The guy argues for a second, then storms off toward the locker room. That's when he must have gone to Lisa with his story. I look at Lisa. So he was hitting on women, got called out, and decided to blame me. Bingo, Lisa says. He made up a story to deflect. Probably thought if he accused you first, we wouldn't look into what he was actually doing. It's so ridiculous I almost can't process it. This guy harassed multiple women, got confronted by staff, and then tried to flip the script by accusing me of harassment. And he really thought it would work. Lisa closes the laptop. I already told him we reviewed the footage and his story doesn't match. He tried to argue, said the cameras must be wrong, but I showed him the timestamp. He didn't have much to say after that. What happens now? I ask. He's banned, membership revoked, and I'm filing a report with corporate so he can't just sign up at another location. I feel this massive wave of relief wash over me. For a second there, I genuinely thought my job was on the line over something I didn't do. But the cameras don't lie. The footage shows exactly what happened. And this guy, he tried to rewrite reality and got caught. Jake chimes in. One of the women he bothered actually thanked us for handling it. She said he made her super uncomfortable and she was thinking about canceling her membership. That hits me. This guy didn't just lie about me. He made the gym feel unsafe for other people. And instead of owning up to it, he tried to destroy someone else's livelihood to cover his tracks. Lisa looks at me. I'm sorry you had to deal with this. You've been nothing but professional since you started here. Actually, I'm putting in a request for a raise for you. You've earned it. I'm not expecting that. Seriously? Seriously. You handled this calmly. You didn't panic. And the footage backs up everything you said. That's exactly the kind of employee I want on my team. I leave her office feeling vindicated, but also kind of rattled. It's unsettling how quickly someone can try to ruin your reputation with a lie. If we didn't have cameras, if Lisa didn't take the time to review the footage, this could have gone very differently. It's a reminder that the truth doesn't always win by default. Sometimes you need evidence. Sometimes you need someone willing to dig deeper, instead of just taking the loudest voice at face value. The guy never came back, obviously. I heard through the grapevine that he tried to dispute the ban with corporate, claimed we were discriminating against him, but the footage made it pretty clear what actually happened. Corporate upheld the ban. Case closed. A couple of the women he bothered actually approached me later that week to thank me. which was weird because I didn't do anything. But I guess they appreciated that the gym took it seriously. One of them said she'd been to other gyms where complaints like that got brushed off, and she was relieved we actually handled it. The whole thing left me with this weird mix of emotions: relief that I was cleared, anger that someone tried to weaponize a false accusation, gratitude that my manager had my back, and honestly, a little bit of disbelief at the sheer audacity of it all. This guy really thought he could lie his way out of consequences, and when that didn't work, he just vanished. Jake and I still joke about it sometimes. He'll walk past the front desk and say, "You following anyone around today?" And I'll just shake my head and laugh. It's become one of those stories we tell new hires as a warning. People will try anything. Always check the footage. Always get the full story. That guy thought he could rewrite reality. But cameras don't lie, and neither do text messages, as one husband learned the hard way. I work at a dry cleaner in a strip mall. It's a small business, family owned. Been around for like 30 years. Most of our customers are regulars. We know their names, their usual orders, the whole thing. It's a good job. Quiet, straightforward, no drama. Or at least it wasn't until this woman walked in. She comes storming through the door on a Wednesday afternoon holding a garment bag like it's a murder weapon. I'm at the counter folding someone's shirts, and before I can even say hello, she slams the bag down and unzips it. Inside is this dress, designer label, expensive looking, and covered in what looks like red wine stains. Big dark splotches all down the front. She points at it and says, "You ruined my dress." I blink. I don't recognize her, and I definitely don't recognize the dress. I ask if she has her ticket. She digs around in her purse, pulls out a crumpled receipt, and shoves it at me. I check our system. Sure enough, she dropped off a dress 2 days ago. But here's the thing. The notes in our system say the dress was already stained when she brought it in. We documented it. We always do. It's standard procedure. If something comes in damaged or stained, we write it down, we take photos, and we have the customer sign a waiver acknowledging the condition. I explain this to her as calmly as I can. I tell her the dress was already stained when she dropped it off, and we have documentation of that. She looks at me like I just told her the earth is flat. Then she starts yelling. And I mean really yelling. She's saying we're trying to scam her, that we destroyed her property, that she's going to sue us for $5,000. She pulls out her phone and starts recording me, holding it up right in my face. She's saying things like, "I'm documenting this. Everyone's going to see how you treat customers." I stay calm. I've been yelled at before. It's not fun, but I've learned that the second you start yelling back, you lose. So I just stand there, hands folded on the counter, and wait for her to finish. When she finally pauses to take a breath, I say, "Ma'am, we have security footage. Would you like to review it?" She freezes. Just for a second. Her eyes flick to the camera mounted in the corner of the shop, then back to me. She's still holding her phone up, still recording, but I can see her brain working. She's trying to figure out if I'm bluffing. I'm not. She says, "Fine, show me." I walk to the back office and pull up the footage from 2 days ago. Our system keeps everything archived for at least a month. I find the timestamp from when she dropped off the dress and cue it up on the monitor. Then I call her back. She follows me, phone still in hand, still recording. I hit play. The footage is clear. She walks in, approaches the counter, and hands over the garment bag. My coworker at the time, Maria, unzips it and pulls out the dress. Even on the grainy security camera, you can see the stains. They're obvious. Big, dark red blotches all down the front. Maria holds it up, points to the stains, and says something. You can't hear the audio, but you can see her gesturing. Then she pulls out the waiver form, writes something on it, and hands it to the woman. The woman reads it, nods, and signs it. The whole interaction is right there. Documented. Undeniable. I pause the video and look at her. She's staring at the screen, and her face has gone from angry red to a kind of pale, splotchy white. She's not saying anything. Her phone is still up, but her hand is shaking slightly. I ask if she'd like me to print a copy of the footage for her records. She doesn't respond. And here's where it gets absurd. The door chimes and a man walks in. Older guy, maybe mid-50s, wearing a polo shirt and khakis. He looks confused, like he's not sure why he's here. The woman's head snaps toward him, and I realize this must be her husband. He says her name, asks what's going on. She stammers something about the dress, about how we're trying to cheat her. He walks over to the monitor, looks at the paused footage, and I can see his expression change in real time. He asks me to play it again. I do. He watches the whole thing, silent. When it's over, he turns to his wife and says very quietly, "You told me they ruined it." She starts backtracking immediately. She says she forgot. She says she was confused. She says it doesn't matter because they should have been able to clean it anyway. He's not buying it. He looks at her like he's seeing someone he doesn't recognize. Then he looks at me and says, "I'm so sorry. This is completely unacceptable." He doesn't wait for her to respond. He just grabs her by the arm and practically drags her out of the shop. She's protesting the whole way, saying he's embarrassing her, but he doesn't stop. The door swings shut behind them, and I'm left standing there in the sudden silence, trying to process what just happened. Maria, who's been watching the whole thing from the corner, comes over and says, "That was insane." I just nod, because honestly, I don't even know what to say. The woman threatened to sue us, recorded me, screamed in my face, and then got completely exposed in front of her own husband. It's the kind of thing you'd see in a movie, except it just happened in real life. In a dry cleaning shop on a random Wednesday. Things went from bad to unhinged. About a week later, we get a letter in the mail, handwritten. I open it and it's from the husband. He apologizes again for his wife's behavior. He says he had no idea she was planning to blame us for the stains. And then, at the end of the letter, he writes something that honestly makes me feel a little sad. He says he's filing for divorce. He says this incident was the final straw in a long pattern of behavior he can no longer tolerate. I read the letter twice. Part of me feels vindicated. She tried to scam us, she failed, and there were consequences, but another part of me just feels kind of hollow. I didn't set out to end someone's marriage. I was just doing my job. I showed the footage because it was the truth. What happened after that? That was on them. I show the letter to Maria. She reads it and lets out a low whistle. "That's heavy." "Yeah," I say. "It is." We don't talk about it much after that. The woman never comes back. The husband never comes back either. Life just goes on. We clean clothes, we fold laundry, we help customers. But every now and then, when someone comes in with an attitude, I think about that day. I think about how a simple security camera and a signed waiver completely dismantled someone's lie. And I think about how that lie apparently wasn't the only one she'd been telling. The thing is, people lie all the time. Little lies, big lies, lies to get out of trouble, lies to make themselves look better. Most of the time, those lies don't have major consequences, but every once in a while someone lies to the wrong person at the wrong time, and it all comes crashing down. This woman lied to her husband, she lied to us, she probably lied to herself, and when the truth finally came out, it didn't just cost her a lawsuit, it cost her a marriage. I kept the letter. I'm not sure why. Maybe as a reminder, maybe as proof that sometimes doing the right thing has consequences you never see coming. Or maybe just because it's one of those stories that's so surreal, you need physical evidence to believe it actually happened. Sometimes the truth doesn't just save your job, it ends a marriage. But not all secrets are caught on camera. Some are hiding in folders no one was supposed to see. My partner Alex and I had been together for 3 years. We shared an apartment, split the bills, had our routines. Sunday morning coffee runs, Netflix binges on weeknights. The whole comfortable relationship thing. I thought we were solid. Not perfect, but solid. Looking back, I realize I'd been ignoring little signs for months. The phone always face down on the table. The sudden need for privacy when texting. The way they'd close their laptop screen a little too quickly when I walked into the room. But I trusted them. I didn't want to be that person who questions everything. So I didn't. It was a Saturday afternoon. Alex had gone out to meet a friend for lunch, and I was home alone doing laundry. I walked into the living room and noticed their laptop was still open on the coffee table. They usually closed it, always. But today, it was just sitting there, screen still lit up. I wasn't trying to snoop. I genuinely wasn't. I sat down to move it out of the way so I could fold clothes on the table. And that's when I saw the desktop. Folders everywhere, most of them labeled normal things. Photos, music, work stuff. And then one labeled work backup. Here's the thing. Alex didn't work from home. They worked retail. They didn't have work files, they didn't have backups. So why would they have a folder called work backup? I stared at it for a second, my hand hovering over the trackpad. I knew I shouldn't. I knew opening it would be crossing a line, but something in my gut told me I needed to see what was inside. I clicked it. The folder opened and my stomach dropped. It wasn't work files, it was screenshots, dozens of them. Tinder conversations, Bumble messages, photos of Alex with someone I didn't recognize, smiling, laughing, holding hands. Photos that were clearly recent because Alex was wearing a shirt I'd bought them 2 months ago. I scrolled through the screenshots, my hands shaking. The messages were flirty, some were explicit, plans to meet up, complaints about me, about our relationship, about how they felt stuck, and then I saw the Word document. It was titled Exit Plan. I opened it. It was a bulleted list, detailed, methodical, cold, steps for how to break up with me while keeping the apartment, how to frame the conversation so I'd be the one who moved out, how to make it seem mutual so they wouldn't look like the bad guy to our friends. There was even a timeline. They were planning to do it in 3 weeks. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to process what I was seeing. My brain couldn't keep up. This person I'd been with for 3 years, who I'd built a life with, had been planning to leave me. And not just leave me, strategically dismantle our relationship in a way that benefited them the most. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I didn't cry. Not yet. I was too numb. I just started screenshotting everything. The Tinder conversations, the photos, the exit plan document. I sent them all to myself via email. I needed proof. I needed to know I wasn't imagining this. When I was done, I closed the folder, closed the laptop, and sat there in silence. Alex came home a few hours later, cheerful and relaxed. They asked how my day was. I said it was fine. We made dinner together. We watched a movie. The whole time I felt like I was watching someone I didn't know. This person who was chopping vegetables next to me, who was laughing at jokes on the screen, had been lying to me for months, maybe longer. That night, after we'd gone to bed, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned on the light and said we needed to talk. Alex looked at me confused. I told them I'd seen the folder. I watched their face change. First confusion, then panic, then anger. They immediately went on the defensive. You went through my laptop? Are you serious right now? That's a complete invasion of privacy? I just stared at them. You have a folder full of Tinder screenshots and a document called Exit Plan, and you're mad at me for finding it? They stammered, tried to backtrack, said it wasn't what it looked like, that the Tinder conversations were old, that the photos were just from hanging out with a friend, that the exit plan was something they wrote when they were upset, but they didn't mean it. Just a way to vent. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshots I'd sent myself, the timestamps on the Tinder messages, the metadata on the photos, the last modified date on the exit plan document, which was from 2 days ago. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just showed them the evidence and waited. They broke, started crying, said it wasn't supposed to happen like this, that they were confused, that they didn't know what they wanted, that it was just a backup plan in case things didn't work out. A backup plan, like I was a job they were considering quitting. And here's where it gets absurd. They actually tried to flip it on me, said that maybe if I'd been more attentive, they wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere, that I'd been distant lately, that they felt neglected. I almost laughed. I'd been distant. I wasn't the one having secret conversations on dating apps. I wasn't the one drafting breakup strategies like a corporate memo. I told them the plan starts now, not in 3 weeks. Now. They tried to argue, said we should talk about this, work through it, maybe go to therapy. I said no. I told them they had until tomorrow to pack their stuff and leave. The apartment was in my name. They'd moved in with me. Legally, I had every right to ask them to go. They spent the rest of the night crying, apologizing, begging me to reconsider. I didn't respond. I slept on the couch. The next morning, I stayed out of the apartment while they packed. I went to a coffee shop, sat there for hours and just stared at my phone. Friends texted asking if I was okay. I didn't know how to answer. Was I okay? No, but I would be. When I came back, their stuff was gone. They'd left the key on the kitchen counter. No note, no final apology, just the key. I walked through the apartment, noticing all the empty spaces where their things used to be. The bookshelf looked bare. The bathroom counter was half empty. It felt surreal. 3 years, gone in a day. I didn't hear from them for a week. Then I got a text, a long, rambling message about how they'd made a mistake, how they wanted to talk, how they missed me. I didn't respond. A few days later, another text, then another. I blocked the number. Mutual friends reached out. Some of them had gotten Alex's side of the story, which apparently painted me as controlling and paranoid. I sent them the screenshots. Most of them stopped talking to Alex after that. A few stopped talking to me too, said they didn't want to get involved. That was fine. I didn't need people who couldn't see the difference between invading privacy and discovering betrayal. It's been 6 months now. I still live in the same apartment. I repainted the living room, rearranged the furniture, made it feel like mine again. I'm doing okay. Some days are harder than others. I'll see something that reminds me of them, and I'll feel that punch in the chest all over again. But mostly, I just feel relieved. Relieved that I found out when I did. Relieved that I didn't waste another 3 years on someone who saw me as a problem to be managed. People ask if I regret looking at the laptop. I don't. Yeah, it hurt. Yeah, it ended the relationship. But it also showed me the truth. And the truth, as ugly as it was better than living in a lie. Alex thought they'd hidden it well. But sometimes, the truth doesn't stay buried, especially when someone accidentally hits send. Our family group chat is the most boring thing on my phone. It's basically just my mum sharing recipes nobody asks for, my dad sending blurry photos of his garden, and my aunt forwarding inspirational quotes with way too many emojis. Sometimes someone throws in a birthday reminder or asks if anyone has jumper cables. That's it. Nothing dramatic ever happens there, until the day my cousin Lisa accidentally nuked the entire family dynamic with one screenshot. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was at work, barely paying attention to my phone, when I saw the notification. Lisa had posted something in the group chat. I opened it expecting another meme or maybe a question about Christmas plans. Instead, it was a screenshot of a text conversation. Her text conversation. With someone named Becca at the top, and the messages were about our family. The screenshot showed Lisa mid-rant. She was going off about how my mom is controlling and overbearing, always inserting herself into everyone's business. How my dad is too weak to stand up to her. How family dinners are exhausting because my mom has to orchestrate everything down to the smallest detail and nobody's allowed to just relax. It went on. There were laughing emojis, there were all caps complaints. It was brutal. I stared at my screen, genuinely confused for a second. Why would Lisa post this in the family chat? Then it hit me. She didn't mean to. She was probably trying to send another screenshot to Becca, maybe continuing the conversation, and she grabbed the wrong image from her camera roll. And now it was sitting in our family group chat for everyone to see. My parents, my aunt and uncle, my siblings, everyone. The chat went silent for maybe 30 seconds. Then the typing indicator started. 3 people typing at once. I watched as Lisa's message disappeared. She'd deleted it, but it was way too late. We'd all seen it. You can't unsend something like that even if you delete it 2 seconds later. The damage was done. My mum was the first to respond. She just wrote, "Lisa, what is this?" No punctuation, no emotion, just a question. But you could feel the hurt through the screen. My dad didn't say anything. My aunt, Lisa's mum, jumped in immediately. She wrote something like, "I'm sure this is a misunderstanding. Lisa, can you explain?" Classic aunt move, trying to smooth it over before it explodes. Lisa tried to backtrack. She said the screenshot was taken out of context, that she was venting to her friend after a stressful day and didn't mean any of it, that sometimes people say things they don't mean when they're frustrated. She said she loved my mum and dad, and the text didn't reflect how she really felt. The whole message reeked of panic. You could tell she was scrambling, trying to put out a fire that was already spreading. My mum wasn't buying it. She responded, and this time you could feel the anger. She said if Lisa really felt that way, she should have said it to her face instead of talking behind her back. That she spent years trying to bring this family together, hosting dinners and organizing holidays, and this is the thanks she gets, that she's hurt and disappointed. My dad finally chimed in with a short message. Just, "This is really hurtful, Lisa." And here's where it gets absurd. Instead of apologizing, Lisa doubled down. She said she was just venting and everyone vents about their family sometimes. That it's normal and healthy and my mum was overreacting. She said my mum does try to control everything and maybe this was a good opportunity to have an honest conversation about boundaries. I'm reading this in real time. watching her dig herself deeper, and I'm just thinking, what are you doing? Just apologize. Say you were wrong. Say you're sorry. Move on. But she didn't. My aunt tried to diffuse things. She suggested everyone take a break from the chat and cool down before saying anything they'd regret. Too late for that. My mom had already made up her mind. She sent one final message. She said Lisa was no longer welcome at Thanksgiving, that she needed time and space to process this, and she wasn't going to sit at a table with someone who clearly had so little respect for her. Then she left the group chat. Just straight up exited. My dad followed. The remaining family members just sat there in digital silence for a minute. Then my uncle, Lisa's dad, spoke up. He said my mum was being dramatic and that Lisa had a right to her feelings, that kicking her out of Thanksgiving over a private conversation she never meant to share was extreme and unfair. My aunt agreed. She said my mom always made everything about herself, and this was just another example. Things went from bad to unhinged. My siblings and I stayed out of it. We didn't know what to say. On one hand, yeah, Lisa messed up. You don't trash talk your family in a group text, even accidentally. But on the other hand, my mum's reaction felt nuclear. Thanksgiving was still 2 months away. Surely there was time to work this out. Except there wasn't. Because by the next day, the family had split into 2 camps, Team Mom and Team Lisa, and nobody was budging. My mom stayed firm. She planned a smaller Thanksgiving with just my dad, my siblings, and me. She didn't mention Lisa or my aunt and uncle. When I asked her if she was really going to hold on to this, she said she wasn't holding on to anything. Lisa had shown her true colors, and my mum was just responding accordingly. She said she'd spent years being the glue that held this family together, and if people wanted to take shots at her behind her back, they could do it without her. Lisa's parents decided to host their own Thanksgiving. They invited Lisa, obviously, and a few extended family members. They framed it as an alternative option for anyone who wanted to come. No pressure. But it was absolutely pressure. Picking which Thanksgiving to attend became a referendum on whose side you were on. The whole thing spiraled into this weird Cold War where people were choosing sides over a screenshot. Thanksgiving came and went. We had ours, they had theirs. Nobody reached out. No apologies, no attempts at reconciliation. The group chat stayed dead. A few people tried to revive it a week later with some neutral message about the weather, but it didn't take. The energy was gone. What used to be a boring but functional family chat was now a graveyard of unresolved tension. It's been over a year now. We haven't spoken to Lisa or her parents since. My mom refuses to bring it up. If someone mentions them, she changes the subject. My dad's the same way. They've just moved on, or at least they're pretending to. Holidays are smaller now, quieter. Sometimes I wonder if Lisa regrets it, if she wishes she could take it back, or if she stands by what she said and thinks my mom overreacted. Honestly, I don't know what the right answer is. Yeah, Lisa shouldn't have said those things, and she definitely shouldn't have doubled down when she got caught. But cutting off half the family over it? That feels extreme too. Maybe everyone's a little bit wrong here. Maybe that's just how family works sometimes. Someone makes a mistake, someone else overreacts, and suddenly you're spending Thanksgiving with half the people you used to. The worst part is how stupid the whole thing is. It wasn't even a real argument. It was a screenshot, a mistake. Something that could have been resolved with a genuine apology and a conversation. But pride got in the way. Hurt feelings got in the way. And now we're here. A fractured family over a text message nobody was supposed to see. One wrong screenshot tore my family apart, but some lies run even deeper, spanning not just years, but generations. My dad died in March, heart attack, completely unexpected. One day he's arguing with the cable company on the phone, the next day he's gone. We were close, not perfect, but close. He was the kind of dad who showed up to every school event, who taught me how to change a tire, who called every Sunday just to check in. So when he died, it felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. The funeral was packed. Co-workers, old friends, neighbors, people I didn't even recognize. Everyone had a story about how my dad helped them once, how he was such a good guy, how the world was worse without him. And I believed it. I stood there at the podium and gave this whole speech about what an amazing person he was, and I meant every word. After the funeral, my mum asked me to help sort through his office. He'd worked from home for the last 10 years, and his office was this cluttered mess of filing cabinets, old paperwork, random receipts from 2003. My mum couldn't face it. My siblings were too busy with their own lives. So it fell to me. I didn't mind. Honestly, it felt good to have something to focus on, some way to feel useful. I spent a week just organizing, throwing out junk mail, shredding old tax documents, boxing up books to donate. It was tedious but therapeutic in a weird way. And then I got to the filing cabinet in the corner, the old metal one that had been there since I was a kid. I'd never really paid attention to it. My dad used it for storage, I assumed. Random stuff he didn't need but couldn't throw away. I pulled open the bottom drawer, and that's when I found them. A stack of letters held together with a rubber band that had dry rotted and snapped the second I touched it. The envelopes were yellowed, the handwriting faded but still legible. They were addressed to my dad, but the return address was from someone named Claire. No last name, just Claire. And the postmark dates went back to the early 80s. I opened the first one. It was dated 1983. The letter was short, just a few paragraphs, but it was clear immediately that this wasn't some old friend or distant relative. The tone was intimate. Familiar? She mentioned missing him, wishing things were different, hoping he was happy. I felt my stomach twist. I opened another letter, then another. They spanned years, dozens of them, and the more I read, the clearer the picture became. My dad had an affair. It started in the early 80s before I was born, and it went on for years. Claire was married too. They'd meet in hotels, at conferences, anywhere they could steal time together. And then, in a letter dated 1985, she told him she was pregnant. I had to stop reading. I just sat there on the floor of his office, surrounded by boxes and papers, trying to process what I was holding. My dad had another kid, a son, born in 1985. That made him 40 now, 40 years old, and I had no idea he existed. But that wasn't even the worst part. I kept reading. In the letters that followed, Claire talked about raising the boy on her own. Her husband didn't know. My dad sent money every month, thousands of dollars over the years, hush money basically. He paid her to keep quiet, to keep the kid away, to make sure this secret never came to light. And she did. For 40 years she kept it buried. I found bank statements in the same drawer, monthly wire transfers to an account under Claire's name. The payments stopped 3 years ago. I don't know why. Maybe she didn't need the money anymore. Maybe they had some kind of agreement. But the fact remained. My dad had a whole other life, a whole other child, and he never told us. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't tell my siblings. Not yet. I needed more information. I needed to understand the full scope of this before I blew up our entire family. So I did what any rational person would do in 2025. I searched for Claire online. It took a while, but I found her. Or at least, I found an obituary. She died 2 years ago. Cancer. The obituary mentioned her survived by a son, and it listed his name. I'll call him David. I found David on social media within minutes. He had a public profile, photos of his life, his job, his dog. He looked like my dad. Not identical, but the resemblance was there. Same nose, same build. I stared at his profile for an hour, trying to decide if I should reach out. Eventually, I did. I sent him a message, kept it vague, said I was going through my late father's things and found some letters, and I thought he might want to know. He responded within a day. He said he'd been waiting for this message his whole life. We agreed to meet. Coffee shop, neutral territory. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just drove to the cafe, sat down, and waited. When he walked in, I knew it was him before he even said anything. He looked so much like my dad, it was eerie. We shook hands. It felt surreal. David told me everything. He knew about us. He'd always known. His mom told him when he was a teenager. She said his real father had another family, that he couldn't be part of David's life, but that he cared from a distance. David grew up knowing he had siblings somewhere, knowing he had a father who chose not to acknowledge him. He said it messed him up for years. Therapy, anger, resentment. But eventually he made peace with it, or at least he thought he did. I asked why he never reached out. He said his mom made him promise. She said it would destroy 2 families, and nothing good would come from it. So he stayed away. Even after she died, he stayed away. Until now. I went home and told my mom. I couldn't keep it from her. I showed her the letters. I told her about David. I expected shock, denial, anger. What I didn't expect was for her to sit down very calmly and say, "I know." That hit me harder than anything else. "You know?" She nodded. "I've known for years. Your father told me when David was born. We almost divorced. But we had you kids, and I didn't want to blow up the family. So I forgave him. Or I tried to. He promised it was over, that he'd never see Claire again. And as far as I know, he didn't. But the payments continued. I saw the bank statements. I never said anything. I couldn't believe it. My mom had carried this secret for decades. She'd watched my dad send money to another woman, to another child, and she never told us. She just swallowed it and moved on. When I told my siblings, everything fell apart. My brother was furious, not just at my dad, but at my mom for hiding it. My sister broke down crying, said she felt like she didn't even know who our parents were. We had this massive family blow up. Screaming, accusations, tears. It was the kind of fight you don't come back from. I met David for coffee a few more times after that. We're not close, we're strangers really. But there's this weird bond between us. We're both victims of the same lie, the same betrayal. He lost a father he never got to know. I lost the father I thought I knew. And now we're left trying to make sense of it. David doesn't want to be part of our family. He made that clear. He said he spent his whole life being the secret, and he's tired of it. He just wanted acknowledgement, proof that he existed, that he mattered, and now he has it. That's enough for him. My family is fractured now. My mom and I barely speak. My siblings are in therapy. I'm still sorting through the rest of my dad's office, wondering what else I'm going to find. Every time I open a drawer, I brace myself. Some secrets don't just destroy relationships, they rewrite entire family trees. But not all betrayals are hidden in old letters. Some are happening in real time, right under your nose. My sister Emma has always had what everyone would call the perfect life. Perfect house in the suburbs, perfect husband who works in finance. Perfect Instagram feed full of brunch photos and anniversary posts, with captions like "blessed beyond measure." Growing up, we were close, but somewhere in her mid-20s after she got married, she started curating her life like it was a brand. Everything had to look flawless, and from the outside, it did. I didn't see her as much after she moved an hour away. We'd text occasionally, see each other at family events, the usual. So when she called asking if she could borrow my laptop because hers was getting repaired, I didn't think twice. I said sure, dropped it off at her place, and told her to just leave it on the porch when she was done. A few days later, I picked it up. I brought it home, opened it to check my email, and that's when I noticed something weird. Her iMessages were still synced to my laptop. I don't know if she forgot to sign out or if it just auto-synced when she logged into iCloud, but there they were. A whole list of her recent conversations right there on my screen. I wasn't trying to snoop. I was literally about to close the app when I saw a name I didn't recognize. Jake. The preview of the last message was enough to make me stop. It said something like, "Can't wait to see you again." My stomach turned. I told myself it was probably nothing. A coworker, an old friend, something innocent. But I clicked on it anyway. The thread opened and I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Explicit messages, photos I really wish I hadn't seen. Plans to meet up while her husband was at work. Conversations about how exciting it was to sneak around. How she felt alive again. How her marriage had been boring for years. It went back months. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a full-blown affair. I just sat there staring at my screen, trying to process it. My sister, Emma, the one who posted about date nights and called her husband her soulmate in every Instagram caption. She was cheating on him, and not just casually. This was calculated, deliberate, ongoing. I screenshot the messages. I don't even know why. Maybe I thought I'd need proof later. Maybe I just needed to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Then I signed her out of iMessage, closed my laptop, and spent the next hour pacing around my apartment, trying to figure out what to do. I called her the next day, told her we needed to talk. She could tell something was wrong by my tone, so she agreed to meet for coffee. We sat down and I didn't even ease into it. I just said, "I saw your messages with Jake." Her face went white, then red. Then she started stammering, asking how I saw them, what I was doing going through her phone. I explained that her iMessages had synced to my laptop. that I wasn't snooping, that they were just there. She tried to deny it at first, said it was taken out of context, that Jake was just a friend and we were joking around. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots. Her excuses stopped. She started crying, the ugly kind of crying where you can barely breathe. She begged me not to tell her husband, said it was a mistake, that she was going to end it, that it didn't mean anything. I told her she needed to tell him herself, that he deserved to know. She refused, said it would destroy him, destroy their life, that I didn't understand how complicated it was. I asked her how long it had been going on. She said 6 months. 6 months of lying to his face, 6 months of sneaking around, 6 months of playing the perfect wife on social media while meeting up with someone else behind his back. The level of deception was staggering, and she still didn't think she needed to tell him. I told her she had 1 week. Either she told him or I would. She got angry then, said I had no right, that this was her marriage and her business, that if I told him, she'd never forgive me. I said that was a risk I was willing to take. She left, didn't even finish her coffee, just grabbed her purse and walked out. I sat there alone feeling like the worst person in the world, but also feeling like I'd made the right call. Her husband didn't deserve this. He was a good guy, a little boring maybe, but kind, loyal. He didn't deserve to be lied to. A week passed, I didn't hear from Emma. I checked her Instagram, still posting pictures of her and her husband, still captioning them with heart emojis and hashtags like couple goals. It was surreal, like she'd completely compartmentalized the whole thing. Then her husband called me. His name's David. He sounded stressed. He asked if I'd talked to Emma recently, said she'd been acting weird, distant, defensive whenever he asked her anything. He wanted to know if she'd said anything to me, if something was going on. I cracked. I couldn't lie to him. I told him I had something to show him and that he should come over. He did. I showed him the screenshots. I watched his face as he read through them. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just went very still and very quiet. After a few minutes, he handed my phone back and said thank you. Then he left. What happened next? Nobody saw it coming. David filed for divorce 2 days later. Emma called me screaming, said I'd ruined her life, that I'd destroyed her marriage, that I was a terrible sister. I told her she'd destroyed her own marriage the second she started cheating. She hung up on me. That was 4 months ago. We haven't spoken since. Our parents tried to mediate. They didn't know the full story at first. Emma told them we'd had a fight and I'd turned her husband against her. I showed them the screenshots too. My mum was devastated. My dad just looked tired. They tried to get Emma to apologize, to take responsibility, but she refused. In her mind, I was the villain. I was the one who broke up her marriage, not her, not the affair, me. The divorce was finalized last month. David got the house. Emma moved into an apartment closer to the city. She's still with Jake from what I've heard through mutual friends. She posts about him now. No more pretending, no more perfect marriage aesthetic. Just her and Jake, living their truth or whatever. I don't regret telling David. I think about it sometimes, wonder if I should have stayed out of it. Let Emma handle it herself. But then I remember the look on David's face when I showed him those messages. The betrayal, the pain. He deserved to know. He deserved the chance to make his own choice about his life. Emma hates me now. Maybe she always will. Part of me is sad about that. We were close once, but I can't regret doing the right thing. She made her choices. I made mine. And if our relationship is the price I pay for helping someone escape a lie, then that's a price I'm willing to live with. The whole thing taught me something, though. You never really know what's happening behind closed doors. The most perfect-looking relationships can be rotting from the inside, and sometimes the people we think we know best are the ones hiding the biggest secrets. Emma hated me for telling the truth, but some people don't wait for you to expose them. They implode all on their own. I've lived in my house for about 5 years. It's a quiet neighborhood, HOA managed, the kind of place where people mow their lawns on schedule and nobody parks on the street overnight. I've always followed the rules, paid my fees on time, kept my yard neat, never caused problems. I've got one neighbor who's always been a little off, though, Todd, mid-40s, lives 2 houses down, and has this weird territorial energy like he thinks he runs the block. We'd never really talked much, polite nods when we saw each other, maybe a wave here and there. but I could tell he was the type who kept tabs on everyone. The kind of guy who notices if your trash cans are out 5 minutes past pickup time. I just ignored it. Wasn't worth engaging with. Then one Saturday afternoon, I'm vacuuming my living room. It's 3 in the afternoon, middle of the day, windows closed. I'm just cleaning my house like a normal person. The next week, I get a letter from the HOA. Official letterhead, the whole thing. It's a formal warning about a noise complaint. Apparently, I was playing loud music that disturbed my neighbors. The complaint was filed by Todd. I read the letter 3 times, trying to make sense of it. Loud music? I wasn't playing music. I was vacuuming for maybe 20 minutes in the middle of a Saturday afternoon. I called the HOA office, explained the situation, and the woman on the phone is sympathetic but says they have to log all complaints. She suggests I just keep it down in the future. I'm standing there holding the phone, genuinely baffled. Keep what down? My vacuum cleaner? During daylight hours? I let it go. I figured Todd was just being petty, and if I ignored him, it would blow over. But it stuck with me. The audacity of filing a noise complaint over a vacuum cleaner. At 3 p.m. on a weekend. It felt like he was testing me, seeing if he could push me around. And honestly, it pissed me off. A couple of weeks later, I'm out front watering my plants, and I notice something. Todd's garage door is open. There's a car inside that's not his. Some beat-up sedan up on jack stands. There's another guy with him, and they're working on the engine. Tools everywhere. Parts scattered on the driveway. I watch for a minute, and it clicks. Todd's running some kind of side business out of his garage. People bring him cars, he fixes them, probably gets paid under the table. Which, fine, except that's completely against HOA rules. You can't run a commercial business out of a residential property. It's literally in the bylaws. I start paying more attention. Over the next few days, I see different cars rotating through his driveway. Different people dropping them off, picking them up. He's not even trying to hide it. And then I notice his dogs. He's got 2 pit bulls in his backyard. Big dogs, seem friendly enough. But pit bulls are on the HOA's banned breed list. Has been for years. Another violation, and then there's the shed. I'd noticed it a few months back, but didn't think much of it. It's tucked in the corner of his yard, kind of hidden by some trees. But the HOA has strict rules about outbuildings. You need a permit. You need approval from the Architectural Review Committee. I'm willing to bet Todd didn't get either. So now I'm looking at 3 clear violations. Unlicensed business, banned dog breeds, unpermitted structure. And this guy had the nerve to file a noise complaint against me for vacuuming. The hypocrisy is almost impressive. I decide to do some digging. I pull up the HOA bylaws, screenshot the relevant sections, and start documenting everything. I take photos of the cars in his driveway with timestamps. I take photos of the dogs in his yard. I take photos of the shed from multiple angles. I even check the county's permit database. Sure enough, no permits filed for any structures on Todd's property in the last 10 years. Then I compile everything into a neat little folder. Photos, bylaw references, permit records, all organized and labeled. I submit it to the HOA with a polite cover letter explaining that I noticed some potential violations and thought they should be aware. I don't mention the noise complaint. I don't mention Todd by name in a negative way. I just present the facts and let them do their job. 2 weeks later, Todd gets hit with a letter from the HOA. I know because I see him standing in his driveway, reading it, and his face goes bright red. The letter outlines all 3 violations and gives him 30 days to remedy them or face fines. He doesn't remedy them. A month later, the fines start. $10,000 total. The business, the dogs, and the shed all itemized. The letter also mentions that continued non-compliance could result in a lien on his property and potential foreclosure proceedings. That's when everything unraveled. Todd comes to my house. He's furious, pounds on my door like he's trying to break it down. I open it and he immediately starts yelling, asks if I reported him to the HOA, calls me a snitch, says I ruined his life over nothing. I just stand there, calm as can be, and say, "Noise complaint, huh?" He stops mid-rant. His face goes from red to this kind of pale, splotchy color. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. He stammers something about how that was different, how I was actually being loud. I remind him I was vacuuming at 3 in the afternoon. He doesn't have a response to that. He just glares at me, mutters something I can't quite hear, and storms off. Over the next few weeks, I watch the fallout. The cars stop coming to his garage. The shed gets torn down. The dogs disappear, I'm guessing rehomed. He pays the fines, but the damage is done. The HOA's got him on their radar now. Every little thing he does gets scrutinized. He can't sneeze without someone checking if it's a violation. 3 months later, there's a for sale sign in his yard. I'm sitting on my porch when the realtor shows up to take photos, and I just sip my coffee and watch. Todd moves out a few weeks after that. I never see him again. New neighbors move in. Quiet couple, keep to themselves, no drama. It's peaceful. People ask me if I feel bad about it. Honestly, no. Todd started this. He filed a bogus complaint to mess with me, and when I defended myself, he couldn't handle the consequences. I didn't make him run an illegal business. I didn't make him ignore HOA rules. I just pointed out what was already there. He gambled that nobody would notice or care, and he lost. The funny part is, if he just left me alone, I never would have looked twice at what he was doing. I don't care what my neighbors do, as long as it doesn't affect me. But he made it my business when he came after me. And once I started looking, it all fell apart for him. I still live in the same house, still follow the rules, still keep my head down. But now, whenever I vacuum on a Saturday afternoon, I smile a little. Because I know Todd's not around to complain about it anymore. Todd learned you don't start wars you can't win, but some battles don't happen between neighbors. They happen in the workplace, and the fallout is brutal. I'd been working at the company for 4 years, started as a junior analyst, worked my way up to senior, built relationships with clients, put in the hours. I wasn't gunning for management or anything, but I was solid, reliable. The kind of employee who shows up, does the work, and doesn't cause problems. My boss, Greg, had been there about 2 years. He came in from another firm with big promises about modernizing our processes and increasing efficiency. What he actually did was cut corners, bend rules, and create a culture where nobody felt comfortable speaking up. I started noticing things pretty early on. Little things at first. Timesheets that didn't match actual hours worked. Over time, that got erased from the system. Then bigger things. There was a harassment complaint from one of the women on our team. She went to Greg with it, and he told her he'd handle it. Nothing happened. The guy she complained about is still there, still making comments, still making people uncomfortable. She eventually left the company. Greg never filed a report, just buried it. Then there were the vendor relationships. Greg had this one supplier he always pushed us to use, even though their prices were higher than competitors and their quality was inconsistent. Turns out he was getting kickbacks. I saw the invoices, saw the discrepancies, started keeping copies. I didn't know what I was going to do with all this information. I just knew that if things ever went sideways, I wanted documentation. On a Thursday afternoon, Greg calls me into his office. He's got this fake, sympathetic expression on his face, like he's about to deliver bad news but wants me to know he feels terrible about it. He tells me the company is restructuring, budget cuts, they're eliminating my position. I'm being let go, effective immediately. No severance package, just 2 weeks' pay as per my contract and a thanks for your service. I sit there taking it in. I ask why my position specifically. He gives me some vague answer about redundancy and shifting priorities. I ask if there's been any issue with my performance. He says, no, of course not. This isn't personal. It's just business. But here's the thing. We just landed our biggest client 3 months ago. A client I brought in. Revenue is up. The team is understaffed, if anything. There's no restructuring. This is personal. I can feel it. I ask about severance. He says the company policy is clear. 2 weeks for employees under 5 years. Non-negotiable. I nod slowly like I'm processing. Then I say, what if we made it negotiable? Say 6 months severance and I walk out quietly. No questions, no fuss. He actually laughs. Not a polite chuckle. A full, condescending laugh. He says, you're not in a position to negotiate. You're being terminated. You can accept it gracefully or make a scene, but either way, you're done here. I stand up, tell him I'll need to think about it. He looks confused, tells me there's nothing to think about. I'm to pack my things and leave by end of day. I say okay, and I walk out. I go back to my desk and I don't pack anything. I open my laptop and I start compiling everything I've saved over the past several months. Falsified timesheets with timestamps showing when they were altered. The buried harassment complaint with email evidence that Greg received it and never escalated it. Screenshots of invoices showing the vendor kickbacks, complete with metadata. I've got it all organized in a folder I've been updating for months just in case. I draft an email, I attach everything, and I send it to three people: HR, the CEO, and the State Labor Board. In the email, I explain that I've been terminated without cause, and I believe it may be retaliation for raising concerns about workplace practices. I outline the violations I've documented. I keep the tone professional, factual, no emotion. Just here's what happened, here's the evidence, please investigate. I hit send, then I pack my things and leave. The next morning, I get a call from HR. They want to meet. I go in, and there's the HR director, the CEO, and a lawyer I've never seen before. They ask me to walk them through everything. I do. I show them the originals of the documents I sent. I explain the timeline. They take notes. They thank me for bringing this to their attention and say they'll be conducting a full investigation. Within 3 days, Greg is placed on administrative leave. Within a week, he's fired. I get a call from the CEO personally. He apologizes for what happened, says the company takes these matters seriously, and they failed to catch this sooner. He offers me my job back, full reinstatement, back pay, for the time I was terminated, and a raise. I accept, but that wasn't even the worst part. Greg doesn't go quietly. About a month after he's fired, I get served with a lawsuit. He's suing me for defamation, claims I spread false information that damaged his reputation and cost him his job. The lawsuit is wild. It's full of accusations that I fabricated documents, that I had a personal vendetta, that I manipulated the situation to get him fired so I could take his position. None of it is true, and more importantly, none of it is provable because I have evidence for everything I reported. My company provides me with a lawyer. We go through discovery. Greg's legal team requests all my documentation. We provide it. Every email, every invoice, every screenshot, all of it time-stamped and verified. They try to poke holes in it. They can't. The case drags on for a few months, and then suddenly, Greg's lawyer withdraws. Turns out Greg can't afford to keep paying legal fees, and his case is so weak that no lawyer wants to take it on contingency. The lawsuit gets dismissed. Greg tries to appeal. The appeal gets denied. He ends up owing court costs. Last I heard, he's working some mid-level job at a company 3 states over. His reputation in the industry is destroyed. Nobody wants to hire someone who got fired for compliance violations and then tried to sue their way out of consequences. I'm still at the company. Got promoted 6 months after Greg left. The new management is better. Not perfect, but better. People feel like they can actually report problems now. The culture is slowly shifting, and every time someone new joins the team, I tell them the same thing. Document everything, not because you're expecting the worst, but because if the worst happens, you want to be ready. Looking back, I don't feel good about what happened. I don't take any pleasure in Greg losing his job or his reputation, but I also don't regret it. He made choices. He falsified records, buried complaints, took kickbacks, and then tried to fire someone who he probably suspected knew too much. And when he got caught, instead of owning it, he tried to blame me. That's on him. The whole experience taught me something important. Power protects itself. If I hadn't documented everything, if I hadn't sent that email, Greg would have gotten away with it. I'd be gone, he'd still be there, and nothing would have changed. But I had the receipts, and when push came to shove, the receipts mattered more than his title. Greg underestimated the paper trail. But some people don't need emails to destroy you. They just need your own words, sent to the wrong person. I've known Mia since college. We weren't just friends, we were best friends. The kind who could finish each other's sentences, who had matching inside jokes, who'd been through breakups and family drama and all the messy parts of life together. When she started building her social media presence after graduation, I was genuinely happy for her. She had this bubbly personality that translated well online, and watching her grow from a few hundred followers to tens of thousands was exciting. I cheered her on every step of the way. About 6 months ago, she landed this big opportunity. A brand wanted to sponsor an event for her, something to promote their new product line. It was a huge deal for Mia, her first major brand partnership. She was over the moon, and then, about 2 weeks before the event, she called me in a panic. She said she was in over her head. The brand had given her a budget and some general guidelines, but the actual planning, the logistics, the coordinating, all of that was on her. And she had no idea what she was doing. She'd never planned an event before. She didn't know how to book a venue, how to coordinate vendors, how to manage a guest list. She was spiraling. I have a background in event planning. It's literally what I do for a living. So when she asked if I could help, I said yes, without even thinking about it. She was my best friend. Of course I was going to help. She promised she'd credit me, make sure everyone knew I was involved, maybe even tag me in some posts so I could get some exposure for my own work. I told her not to worry about it. I was just happy to help. I spent the next 2 weeks basically running the entire event. I found the venue, negotiated the contract, coordinated with the caterers, managed the guest list, handled the decor, the timeline, everything. Mia was involved, sure, but mostly in a what do you think of this color scheme kind of way. The actual work, the stuff that required experience and organization, that was all me. And I did it for free. She kept saying she'd pay me once the brand money came through, but I told her it was fine. Friends help friends. I didn't need the money. I just wanted her event to be a success. The event was incredible. Everything went perfectly. The venue looked amazing. The brand was thrilled. Mia's followers showed up in droves and posted about it all over social media. It was the kind of night that could genuinely boost someone's career. Mia was glowing. She thanked me privately, said she couldn't have done it without me, said I was the best friend anyone could ask for. I felt good. I felt like I'd really made a difference. Then, 2 days later, she posted about the event, a long, heartfelt caption about how she'd poured her heart and soul into planning every detail, how she'd worked tirelessly to make it perfect, how proud she was of what she'd accomplished. And then, at the very end, this vague line about how some people tried to take credit for her hard work, but she wanted everyone to know that this was her vision, her effort, her success. I read it 3 times, trying to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding, but I wasn't. She was talking about me. She was implying that the person who actually planned the entire event, had tried to steal credit from her, and her followers ate it up. The comments were full of people praising her for standing up for herself, for not letting others diminish her accomplishments. A few people even tagged me, saying things like, "This is so shady," and "Imagine trying to take credit for someone else's work." I was devastated. I sent her a message immediately, asked her what the hell that post was about. She responded hours later with something vague, said she wasn't talking about me, that I was being paranoid, that the post was about someone else entirely, but she didn't say who, and she didn't take the post down, and she didn't correct the people in the comments who were clearly talking about me. That's when everything unraveled. I pulled up our DMs. I scrolled back through weeks of messages where she begged me to help because she was totally clueless about event planning, messages where she admitted she had no idea what she was doing and didn't know how she'd pull it off without me, messages where she promised to make sure I got credit, where she said my name would be all over the event coverage. I took screenshots of everything, every message that proved I'd done the work, that she'd asked for my help, that she'd promised to acknowledge me, and then I posted them. I didn't write some long dramatic caption. I just posted the screenshots with a simple message: "Receipts don't lie." The response was immediate. Her followers, the same ones who'd been attacking me 2 days earlier, turned on her. They called her a liar, a fraud, a fake friend. They said she'd used me and then tried to erase me from the narrative. Brands started pulling back. One of her sponsors dropped her outright, said they didn't want to be associated with someone who'd treat a friend that way. Her comment sections filled with people demanding an apology, demanding accountability. Things went from bad to unhinged. Mia's follower count started dropping. Not a lot at first, but steadily. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. Her engagement tanked. Posts that used to get tens of thousands of likes were barely breaking a few hundred. Other influencers, people she'd collaborated with, started distancing themselves. Nobody wanted to be associated with the drama. She called me crying. It was late, maybe 1 in the morning, and she was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. She said I'd ruined her career, that everything she'd worked for was falling apart because of me, that I'd destroyed her reputation over something so small, something that didn't even matter. She said she was losing sponsorships, losing opportunities, losing everything. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just asked her one question. Did you really think you could erase me and I'd just let it happen? She tried to backtrack, said she never meant to hurt me, that the post wasn't about me specifically, that she'd just been trying to set boundaries with some followers who were being weird. I called her out, told her I had the screenshots, told her I knew exactly what she'd done and why, told her she'd chosen clout over loyalty, and now she was dealing with the consequences. She begged me to take the post down, said if I deleted it she could recover, that people would forget, that she could rebuild. I told her no. I told her she made her choice when she posted that caption, when she let her followers attack me, when she decided her image was more important than our friendship. Then I hung up and blocked her number. It's been 3 months. I haven't heard from her since, but I've watched from a distance. She's still trying to rebuild. She posts less frequently now, and the content feels more desperate, more curated. She did this whole apology tour, posted a tearful video about how she'd made mistakes and was learning and growing. Some people forgave her. Most didn't. Her career isn't dead, but it's not what it was. And honestly, I don't feel bad about it. She had a choice. She could have credited me like she promised. She could have been honest with her followers. She could have been a good friend. Instead, she chose to protect her brand at my expense. And when that blew up in her face, she wanted me to save her. But I was done saving her. People ask if I regret posting the screenshots. I don't. Yeah, it was nuclear. Yeah, it probably ended our friendship permanently. But she ended it first when she lied about me to thousands of people. I just made sure the truth came out. And if that cost her some sponsorships and followers, that's on her, not me. Mia chose clout over loyalty, but some lies don't need screenshots. They need a good old-fashioned truth bomb dropped in front of everyone. My brother Matt has always been a smooth talker, the kind of guy who can charm his way out of anything. Growing up, he'd blame me for stuff he did, and my parents would believe him every time. He'd borrow money and never pay it back. He'd make promises he had no intention of keeping, and somehow, people always gave him the benefit of the doubt. I learned early on that Matt looked out for Matt, and everyone else was just background noise. So when he told me he was getting engaged to Sophie, I was cautiously optimistic. Sophie seemed great, kind, genuine, way too good for him, honestly. But maybe she'd be the one to straighten him out. Maybe he'd finally grow up. I wanted to believe that. The engagement party was at our parents' house. Big backyard setup, catered food, probably 100 people. Sophie's family, our family, friends from college, co-workers, the whole deal. Everyone was celebrating. Toasts were being made. The vibe was happy. And then Matt pulled me aside. We were standing by the fence, away from the crowd, and he had this smug look on his face. He handed me a beer and said, "Can you believe I actually pulled this off?" I didn't know what he meant. I asked him what he was talking about. He leaned in, lowered his voice, and said, "Sophie has no idea I'm still legally married to Jessica." I stared at him. Jessica was his ex-wife. They'd gotten married young, like 22, and it fell apart within a year. That was 5 years ago. I assumed the divorce had been finalized ages ago. Everyone did. I asked him what he meant by still married. He laughed and said he never actually filed the paperwork, said it was expensive and complicated, and he just never got around to it. That he'd been telling everyone, including Sophie, that the divorce was done, but it wasn't. Legally, he was still married to Jessica. I felt my stomach drop. I asked him if he was planning to tell Sophie. He waved me off and said he'd deal with it later, that it wasn't a big deal, that he'd file the papers eventually and Sophie would never have to know. He actually said that, like it was no big deal that he was lying to the woman he was supposedly going to marry. I told him that was insane, that he couldn't marry Sophie while he was still legally married to someone else, that he needed to tell her. He got defensive, said I was overreacting, that it was just a technicality, that Sophie would freak out over nothing if I told her. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't ruin this for me." I walked away, went inside, sat in the kitchen trying to process what I'd just heard. My brother was about to marry someone under completely false pretenses, and he expected me to just keep my mouth shut about it. I pulled out my phone and did something I probably shouldn't have. I looked up his divorce records. They're public in our state. It took me maybe 10 minutes, and there it was. No finalized divorce. The case had been opened 5 years ago and then just abandoned. He'd never followed through. He was still, legally, married to Jessica. I screenshot the record, saved it to my phone, sat there staring at it. I knew if I said something, it would blow up the entire party. My family would be furious. Matt would never forgive me. But if I didn't say something, Sophie was going to marry a guy who was lying to her about something massive. I went back outside. Matt was in the middle of giving a toast. He had his arm around Sophie, talking about how lucky he was, how she was the love of his life, how he couldn't wait to spend forever with her. People were smiling, clinking glasses. Sophie looked so happy, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't let her walk into this blind. When Matt finished his toast, I stood up. My heart was pounding. I raised my glass and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Congrats, Matt. Does Sophie know you're still married?" The entire backyard went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Sophie turned to look at me confused. Matt's face went from smug to panicked in about half a second. He laughed it off, said I was joking, that I'd had too much to drink. But I wasn't laughing. I looked at Sophie and said, "He never finalized his divorce. He's still legally married to Jessica." Sophie stared at Matt. "Is that true?" Matt stammered, tried to play it off, said it was complicated, that he was going to handle it, that it didn't change anything between them. Sophie's expression shifted from confusion to horror. She asked him again, "Are you still married? Yes or no?" He hesitated. That hesitation was all she needed. She pulled off her engagement ring and threw it at him. It bounced off his chest and landed in the grass. Then she turned and walked straight out of the party. Her mom and sister followed her. The silence was deafening. My mom grabbed my arm and hissed, "What is wrong with you?" My dad looked furious. Matt just stood there, staring at the spot where Sophie had been, like he couldn't believe what had just happened. But that wasn't even the worst part. One of Sophie's cousins, who apparently worked in family law, pulled out her phone and confirmed it right there. She looked up the records, same as I had, and announced to everyone that Matt was, in fact, still legally married. The murmurs started. People were whispering, looking at Matt like he'd just committed a crime, which, legally speaking, he kind of was about to. Matt tried to salvage it. He grabbed his phone and called Sophie. She didn't answer. He called again. Nothing. He looked at me and said, "You just ruined my life." I told him he ruined his own life the second he decided to lie to her, that Sophie deserved to know the truth before she married him. He called me a self-righteous piece of garbage and stormed off. My parents followed him, trying to calm him down, but he wasn't hearing it. The party cleared out pretty quickly after that. People made awkward excuses and left. I stayed behind to help clean up, mostly because I didn't know what else to do. My mom wouldn't even look at me. My dad told me I should have talked to Matt privately, instead of humiliating him in front of everyone. I told him Matt had already decided not to tell Sophie, so what was I supposed to do? Let her marry a guy who was lying to her face? My dad didn't have an answer for that. He just shook his head and walked away. Sophie reached out to me a few days later. She thanked me, said she was devastated, but that she was glad she found out before the wedding. She said Matt had been lying about other stuff too, smaller things, but enough to make her realize she didn't really know him. She called off the engagement officially, blocked his number, moved on. Matt, on the other hand, spiraled. He finally filed for divorce from Jessica, but by then the damage was done. Word got around. People in our social circle started distancing themselves from him. His reputation took a hit, and he blamed me for all of it. My family's still mad. My mum thinks I should have handled it differently. My dad says I was technically right but socially wrong. Matt refuses to speak to me, sends me angry texts every few months blaming me for ruining his happiness. I've stopped responding. Do I regret it? Not really. Sophie deserved the truth, and if telling the truth makes me the villain in Matt's story, then so be it. I'd rather be the person who told an uncomfortable truth than the person who stayed silent and let someone get hurt. Matt's engagement ended in flames, but some lies don't explode publicly. They quietly unravel, one accidental message at a time. My wife Jen and I had been married for 6 years. We met in college, got married young, built a life together. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but I thought we were solid. I trusted her. She had her friends, I had mine. We gave each other space. It worked, or at least I thought it did. She'd been doing girls' night pretty regularly for the past few months. Once, sometimes twice a week. She'd go out with her coworkers, grab dinner, have drinks, come home around 11 or midnight. I never questioned it. Why would I? She deserved time with her friends. I'd usually just stay home, watch a game, play some video games. It was our routine. This particular night, she told me she was meeting Amy and a couple of other women from her office, some new wine bar downtown. She got dressed, kissed me goodbye, Said she'd text me when she was heading home. Standard stuff. I ordered takeout, settled in on the couch, and didn't think much of it. Around 10 p.m., my phone buzzes. It's a text from a number I have saved as Amy, Jen's coworker. We'd met a few times at company events. Nice enough person. The text says, "Tell Jen to stop leaving her stuff in Mark's car." I stare at the message, read it twice. I'm confused. Who's Mark? I text back, "Who's Mark?" There's a long pause, like several minutes. Then Amy responds, "Oh my God, wrong person, sorry. Meant to send that to someone else." Now I'm really confused. Wrong person? The message specifically mentioned Jen by name. I call Amy. It rings 4 times and goes to voicemail. I text her again. "You said Jen's name. Who's Mark?" She doesn't respond. My brain is trying to piece this together, but nothing makes sense. I call Jen. Straight to voicemail. I wait 5 minutes and try again. Voicemail. I text her. "Call me when you get this." No response. I'm sitting there on the couch and this sick feeling starts creeping into my stomach. Something's not right. I open the Find My app on my phone. Jen and I share locations. Have for years. Just one of those things we set up for safety and never turned off. I pull up her location. She's not at a wine bar downtown. She's at a hotel. A hotel off the highway, about 20 minutes from our house. I zoom in on the map, making sure I'm reading it right. Yeah, definitely a hotel. I don't even think. I just grab my keys and drive. The whole way there, I'm telling myself there's a reasonable explanation. Maybe the girls' night moved locations. Maybe someone got too drunk and they got a room to sober up. Maybe her phone died and that's why she's not answering. I'm grasping at anything that makes sense. I pull into the hotel parking lot and I see her car immediately. It's parked near the back next to a white pickup truck. I park a few spaces away and I just sit there. I don't know what I'm waiting for. Proof, I guess. Confirmation that my gut feeling is wrong. I wait for over an hour. It's past 11 now, approaching midnight. And then the side entrance to the hotel opens. Jen walks out. She's not alone. There's a guy with her. Tall, dark hair, probably mid-30s. They're laughing. He's got his hand on the small of her back. They walk to the pickup truck and he opens the door for her. She leans in and grabs something. A jacket, maybe. They talk for another minute and then she kisses him. Not a peck, a real kiss. I take my phone out and I snap a photo. The flash goes off. I didn't mean for it to, but it does. Jen's head whips around. She sees me. Her face goes completely white. The guy looks confused, asking her something. She says something back to him and he gets in his truck and drives off. Just leaves her standing there. She walks over to my car. I roll down the window. She starts talking immediately, asking what I'm doing here, why I'm following her, saying this isn't what it looks like. I don't say anything. I just hold up my phone, showing her the photo I just took. She stops mid-sentence. I ask her who he is. She doesn't answer. I ask again. She says his name is Mark, a coworker. I ask how long. She starts crying, says it's complicated, that it just happened, that she didn't mean for it to go this far. I ask again. How long? She finally says 3 months. 3 months, a quarter of a year. All those girls' nights, all those late nights at the office, all those times she came home and kissed me goodnight and acted like everything was normal. 3 months of lying straight to my face. I tell her to drive herself home. I leave. I don't wait for her response. I just start the car and drive. I don't go home. I can't. I drive to my brother's place and crash on his couch. I tell him everything. He just listens, doesn't say much, hands me a beer. The next morning I call a divorce lawyer. I explain the situation, send over the photo, and start the process. The lawyer says it's pretty straightforward. Adultery, evidence, no kids to complicate things. We can move fast if I want to. I do. Then came the breaking point. Jen starts blowing up my phone. Calls, texts, voicemails. At first, she's apologetic, saying she's sorry, that she made a mistake, that she wants to fix this. When I don't respond, the tone shifts. She starts getting angry, says I'm overreacting, that I humiliated her by showing up at the hotel, that I invaded her privacy by tracking her location. I almost laugh. She's really trying to make this my fault. Then she tries a new angle. She starts blaming Amy, says Amy has always stirred up drama, that Amy sent that text on purpose to cause problems, that Amy's jealous of her and wanted to ruin our marriage. It's such a desperate reach that I don't even bother responding. A week later, she shows up at my brother's place. She wants to talk in person. I let her in, mostly because I want this over with. She sits down and starts the apology tour again. Says she's been thinking a lot, that she realizes what she lost, that Mark meant nothing and it's over now, that she'll do anything to fix this. I pull out my phone and show her the photo again, the one of her kissing him in the parking lot. I ask her to explain how that looks like nothing. She doesn't have an answer. She just sits there staring at the floor. I tell her the divorce papers are being filed, that she can keep the furniture, the apartment, whatever. I just want out. She asks if there's any chance I'd reconsider. I say no. She leaves. The divorce finalized 4 months later. It was clean. No fighting over assets, no drama in court. She didn't contest anything. I think part of her knew she didn't have a leg to stand on. I got the car, she got the apartment, we split the savings. Done. I heard through mutual friends that she and Mark didn't last. Apparently, he wasn't interested in anything serious. Shocker. She tried reaching out a few times after the divorce, saying she missed me, that she made a huge mistake. I never responded. There's nothing left to say. Amy, the coworker, actually reached out to me months later. She apologized for the whole thing, said she didn't mean to blow up my marriage, that she genuinely sent that text by accident. She'd been suspicious of Jen and Mark for weeks and was venting to another coworker. Grabbed the wrong contact. Honestly, I thanked her. If she hadn't sent that text, I might have stayed in the dark for who knows how long. It's been a year now. I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. I moved to a new place, started going to the gym, reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with. I'm not dating yet, not ready, but I'm not bitter either. I'm just relieved. Relieved that I found out when I did. Relieved that I didn't waste more years on someone who could lie to me that easily. People ask if I regret marrying her. I don't. We had good years, but those good years don't erase the betrayal, and I'm not going to let what she did define the rest of my life. I trusted the wrong person, I learned from it, and I moved on, and that's where we'll leave it tonight. 15 stories, 15 betrayals, and way too many receipts. If you've made it this far into the chaos, you're officially part of the crew. Sweet dreams, everyone, and remember, the truth always finds a way to surface, whether it's through a screenshot, a camera, or just one wrong text. Sleep tight, and I'll see you in the next one.